if people want to make that decision, that's fair enough. But for me,
our club don't
I
make
think
those
people think it's
decisions.
going to be a fifth centre half on top, and it's not.
Our club don't make those decisions, David. We don't. We're not proactive. We sit there and we react to things. We're not
Liverpool.
proactive. And Liverpool, absolutely.
Um,
You think Liverpool fans are happy with the transfer activity over the past few years?
This video is sponsored by Surfshark, the best VPN on the market. Surfshark is an app or browser extension that allows you to change your location to access websites in other countries and keep you safe and secure from hackers. Using Surfshark, we here in Ireland can access other countries' Netflix libraries or other streaming platforms like DAZN in Spain for all those important Premier League games. Surfshark keeps you safe and private by protecting everything you do online. Everything. When your device connects to the internet, all that information is, in a way, blurred out. Surfshark is particularly useful for keeping you safe from being hacked if you use public Wi-Fi. Let's say you're in a cafe, you're at college, you're out and about, they've got you covered. Surfshark allows you to use one subscription on unlimited devices, meaning you can share your account with friends or family or that neighbour who's a little bit cheap. On top of all of this, Surfshark offers a 30-day money-back guarantee. You can also upgrade to Surfshark One, which includes the VPN, an alert system for breaches related to your data, such as emails and credit cards, and an antivirus software for your desktop. Our sign-up offer gives you Surfshark VPN for a little over €2 a month. Simply scan the QR code on screen right now or use the link in the description.
What is up, my friends? We are back. Delighted to say I'm joined by David Lynch for a little look back over last night's game against Spurs and, of course, a chat about the January transfer window. David, how are we doing? I mean, I guess we should probably start about the boys playing back last night, having to be diverted to Birmingham. Most important thing, of course, is everybody is safe, but that wouldn't be what they would have wanted there for their travel arrangements.
Yeah, not exactly ideal, really. It's just disruption, especially in a kind of packed fixture schedule they're in. I suppose the upside is obviously it's the FA Cup game at the weekend, isn't it? The players who are involved are going to be very different. I think there's going to be a significant amount of the first team won't be part of that squad at all. So I suppose they've got that extra few days off now, and that's no problem really. But yeah, not ideal really to have those sort of circumstances pop up. So I'm sure they were a bit frustrated at the time.
And the other, I guess, bit of good news that we received from last night was that Rodrigo Bentancur is alert and waking in hospital with his family. And, of course, that was everybody's main concern during the game last night. And it's great to see that he's okay and being looked after in hospital.
Yeah, really strange one that in terms of you just kind of didn't really know what was going on and you didn't get a clear picture of it. So really relieved to hear that he's absolutely fine and yeah, hopefully be back soon. So because it's scary in those moments, isn't it? I know why they take those extra precautions, but you never kind of know what's going on then. So yeah, glad to hear he's okay.
I was covering the Euros and I was doing the game that Christian Eriksen collapsed in, and it still sits with me to this day. To be honest with you, it was a frightening thing to see. You think of these guys out there as superhuman, absolute specimens of physicality, and they're monitored. They've no body fat. They eat all the right stuff, and it is scary when moments like this happen. But the most important thing is that he's healthy and well, and he is with his family, and we wish him all the best. So I want to just get into last night straight away. Then the gamble of starting to play the same players over and over and over again for Arne Slot. It surprised me last night, David, to be honest with you, particularly not seeing Harvey Elliott get some minutes off the bench and Federico Chiesa on the bench, but once again, seemingly not being able to be utilised by the manager. It was, I'm starting to see some warning signs, what we've seen in previous seasons, and I very much hope that we don't see a situation where fatigue sets in because players have been overplayed.
To be honest, I probably disagree on that one in terms of I wasn't surprised by the team at all. I think it was the right decision. Obviously, the performance wasn't fantastic, and we'd have all hoped for more. But I think sometimes the kind of the narrative is being applied after, sometimes you just don't perform that well, and now fatigue's being brought up. But people are kind of forgetting this team had 3 or 4 days, 4 or 5 days off ahead of the United game. A few of them went on holiday, so they've had a nice little break, the sort of break you don't typically get during the season. And of course, I was of the mindset that the superstars of the team, that the first teamers who are nailed on, shouldn't be anywhere near the League Cup this season. But as soon as I saw how the schedule fell, it made absolute sense for me to put them in for this one, because what you don't want is to be giving them kind of 10 days off because you complete. I mean, I think they lost a little bit of rhythm going into United, actually, to be honest, having that kind of week build up and not being in training until the Thursday. I think they lost a little bit of rhythm from that. So to say that you would rest them for this one and then rest them for the Accrington game, which absolutely has to happen, you're then going into Nottingham Forest with 9 days off from a game, and I think that's too much at this elite level. I think Jurgen Klopp always believed in that. I think Arne Slot clearly thinks in a similar way, that he kind of had to go with his kind of strongest 11 for this one, and then they'll get the Accrington game off and then hopefully have the rhythm and be flying into the Nottingham Forest game. So I think that was kind of the aim really for this, and I think it made sense to do that. And ultimately, for me, should have come away with a 0-0 draw, which wouldn't have been a bad result at all. But of course, circumstances kind of conspired against them, and they didn't get that in the end. But for me, personally, absolutely no qualms over the team selection, to be honest.
So, if I can give you the team selection, I would push back then, say it's equally as worrying then as to why they performed so poorly after another poor performance against Manchester United. And I understand people want to be optimistic, and that's no problem whatsoever. Arne's done a great job since he's come in. I'm not trying to say he hasn't. I'm fully behind him. But what I would say is we can't just stick our fingers in our ears and just think everything's great all the time when what we're seeing with our own eyes doesn't say that. And last night's performance was unacceptable in many terms, especially, and I think increasingly, because the strongest 11 or a strong 11 was put out against a very poor Spurs team who we'd manhandled a few weeks ago. And yes, they were a bit more defensively solid, Spurs, last night, but we can't just say that was great and we could have got off with a 0-0. We didn't. We were beaten. That's what we have to admit to, and the performance wasn't good enough.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. But also, we surely have seen enough seasons now to know that you go through a 50, 60 game season and you do not play well for probably 35% of it. That happens. And what you do in the moments where you don't play well is you try and get the result. And for me, a 0-0 would have been absolutely fine. I mean, the concession of the goal, I feel like there's some mitigating circumstances around that.
Hey, you know me and referees, David.
I'm sure we'll get into that. But I didn't come away from that game thinking Spurs absolutely deserved to win that. They were very fortunate to win it, really. And I thought Liverpool probably a 0-0 would have been a perfect result. Liverpool marginally the better side, but very marginal, not marginal enough to feel that they were robbed if they got a 0-0 draw. So for me, if you did come away from that with a 0-0 draw in a game where Spurs were more defensive, more sensible in the way they approached the game, it's away from home in the first leg of a semi-final. You said, we're absolutely going to wipe the floor with them at Anfield. That's absolutely fine. As a result, not a perfect performance, but one that kind of, you judge the game you got in front of you. So for me, I think a lot of the reaction to this, to be honest, has been over the top. And I know, generally I lean towards optimism in all aspects of my life where I can. But I don't think it's being optimistic to say that performance was fine within the circumstances. And, I've just seen so many football seasons where those games happen and you do get a 0-0, or, I can't remember many, the many League Cup finals that Jurgen Klopp got to where they absolutely hammered sides in the first leg of the League Cup semi-final. It just didn't happen. So a 0-0 away to a Tottenham side who were clearly playing much more defensively would have been absolutely fine. But because they didn't get it, because the goal comes late, because it comes after all the emotion of being disappointed of not beating Manchester United in the game Liverpool, by the way, should have won, as much as United raised the game in that one, I feel like the emotions become too much, and I'm seeing real loss of composure from supporters over things that happen multiple times through football seasons. So for me,
you surely have to understand why, David. They've seen this play out multiple seasons in a row.
I don't know. I didn't know. See, I've seen this narrative emerge, and I'd see. Can you see? I'm on a bit of a ranty mood today.
Hey, that's all right, man. I love it. Bring it on.
Yeah, I've seen this narrative emerge. Every single season under Jurgen Klopp, it fell apart through fatigue. Nonsense. Liverpool used to maybe have a little bit of a small wobble mid-season. The only season where it absolutely collapsed towards the end was last season. And does anybody think that the reason for that was that Liverpool's squad somehow wasn't big enough, or the fact that they had about 50 injuries through the season? I think it's created an unbelievably warped sense about the size of a squad a big club needs to have. Apparently, you need to have 6 centre-halves and 14 midfielders. And, I think there's maybe small questions you can ask about Slot's use of his squad, maybe, but I completely wholeheartedly disagree with the idea that this group is being driven into the ground, or that these last two performances are anything to do with the fact that they should have signed players, or this squad's going to collapse. those circumstances around last season were very specific to last season. And I think if Liverpool continue on the current path of kind of avoiding injuries, I don't think anything like that will happen. And I get why people are a little bit twitchy about it, maybe, but a lot of the analysis and assessment of it's gone way too far for me.
So I guess let's look at the centre-back situation for a second. Thankfully, you gave an update last night. That was great news. It was just Jarell Quansah felt ill. Brilliant. That's far better than the other option. But let's say it wasn't. Just for a second. Let's say it was a hamstring, abductor muscle, something like that. We were screwed. Be honest about it. We were screwed. We 2 centre-backs fit for the rest of the time till Gomez is back. And yes, Endo can be shoehorned in there. But it just isn't good enough that Liverpool are in that position as a club.
Okay,
4 centre-backs isn't good enough. We didn't replace Matip. Not good enough.
So can you tell me a club who is operating with 5 centre-halves? And by the way, can I exclude City from this on the basis that they use more than the normal amount of centre-halves in their defence? They sometimes use them in midfield. They use them right and left back, don't they? So can you tell me another club who's got more than 4 centre-halves and 2 right backs and 2 left backs? I mean, genuinely.
I'll counter you with a different answer, if I may. We have Joe Gomez, who is either a centre-back or a right-back or a left-back, depending on what we need. So we've got him. We've got a youngster whose confidence is worryingly shot from coming through last season and is not fully acclimatised to first-team football yet. Then we've got our captain, who's obviously the best centre-back in the world, so there's no argument there. And Ibrahim Konate, who was absolutely fantastic, but has also potentially shown some fatigue and muscle injuries in the past as well. So it's not just a case of how many bodies we have, it's how good those bodies are and how trusting the manager is of them. So yeah. I think not replacing Matip at the end of last season, when we had that 5 centre-back squad, and now we don't, is a concern.
No, so for me, I don't think Liverpool went into last season thinking that they had kind of 5 centre-backs either. I think they thought that they had 4, and then Jarell Quansah became an option whereby, once Matip... And for me, you have to make a decision here, and this is the I don't think people are being honest about this in terms of wanting to sign a centre-half, because, okay, if you want to sign a centre-half, do you want to completely block Jarell Quansah's pathway? And that's fine if people do, by the way. But they have to be honest about it. They have to say that they don't want him to play for Liverpool.
I don't know, David, is the honest answer. I don't know what to make of Quansah, because when he came through, I thought he was a Rolls Royce. And maybe it was the first game of the season where Arna just pulled him out of the firing line because he lost a few duels and he was replaced by Konate, and Konate was just so good that it became a fixture of him and Van Dijk. I think people are unsure, and that's the honest answer with it. I think people don't know, they're on the fence.
So and that, as I say, that's absolutely fine, because he was brilliant last season, hasn't been so brilliant this season. So I think that uncertainty is absolutely fair. But when you're building a squad and you're the manager and you have to manage that squad, you can't go, well, I'm a bit unsure, therefore we're going to bring in a centre-half, Jarell, you are not seeing the pitch. Because he's only managed 500 minutes this season. He wasn't on the pitch when they lost to Forest. He barely played yesterday, and he wasn't on the pitch when the goal was conceded. So, he's not been at the scene of the crime for some of the negative moments around this season, although people are seemingly putting a lot of blame on him. But the decision the manager and the sporting director have to make is, do we completely block his minutes? Because he hasn't picked up very many at all this season. If you sign another centre-half, he gets 0. So that's the decision they have to make. So it's absolutely fine for people to say they want that to happen, but nobody's saying that. They're saying, we want to sign an extra centre-half, but there are consequences to doing that people do not think through.
Let me push back then. You asked me about 5-6 centre-backs. I'll ask you, why is he not getting minutes? So you can talk about what the fans trust and don't trust and what we think, but it's what the manager thinks that's important. And you've quoted 500 minutes. Why is he only getting 500 minutes? It's because it's an intentional choice from the gaffer.
Because where would he have got them? He's not going to replace Konate in the Premier League, and he's not going to place Joe Gomez, who is ahead him in the pecking order. So they're both playing the Champions League and the Premier League games. Quansah's getting his minutes in the League Cup primarily so far, also probably in the FA Cup as well. So where else would he get the minutes? So this is what I'm saying. The opportunities to play, give 5 centre-halves their game time are just not there whatsoever. So, you bring in a 5th one, he's definitely ahead of Quansah then, I guess. He's not going to sign unless he is. And then Quansah gets 0 minutes.
Quansah gets pulled off in the first game of the season because the manager has doubts about him and hasn't put him back in really since.
So sell him.
Dress that up however you want.
So this is what I'm saying. So sell him.
Exactly. And this, by the way, I love a ruthless streak in you, in the manager, and anybody else. And that's what I'm saying. I want some definitive decisions because last night we had Chiesa sitting on the bench. Mohamed Salah is brilliant, but looked leggy towards the end last night. Understandably so, as many others did. It's been, a tiring time of the year. And he didn't even want to bring Chiesa on. I know he can only do 10, 12 minutes. I get that at the moment. But he didn't even want to utilise him. And Harvey Elliott's still sitting on the bench. They're taking up squad places. And we as fans can only assume that Slot doesn't trust them to go out and get a job done. So why are they here? That's the question. I'm playing devil's advocate. That's the question that many fans are going to ask. Why are we seeing Chiesa paying $100,000 a week or whatever he's on, get up to fitness in 6 months, get onto a squad, hear from his agent that he's about to get minutes, and Arne Slot doesn't give him 10 when we're chasing the game?
I think with Chiesa, the priority will be for him to start in the Accrington game, to be honest. The Harvey Elliott one, I think, is an absolutely fair point in terms of I've been surprised by the lack of faith that's been shown in him, although he's been very unfortunate with the timing of the injury when he's come back. We know this manager's shown with Jota, by the way, that he absolutely wants them peak level of fitness before he puts them anywhere near the team. So, I hope he plays against Accrington and I hope he impresses. But, I just think those are kind of separate, for me, those are kind of separate issues. I think both of those will play against Accrington and we'll start to hopefully then see them be involved a little bit more. That is my hope on those. But the Quansah thing for me, I think if people want to debate around this about the signing of a centre-half, I'm absolutely fine with people wanting to do that. But they also have to probably come out and say we want to sell Jarell Quansah, which again, I am fine with people saying that. I personally don't agree. I would love to just see him managed a bit more and see, just ease him back in this season and hopefully he can get a bit more confidence back in him because I think there's a real talent there. But for me, if you are signing into the centre-half, you have to sell Jarell Quansah or you have to sell Konate, whose injury record everybody loves mentioning. You have to make those kind of decisions. And if people want to make that decision, that's fair enough. But for me, they're not. I think people think it's going to be a fifth centre-half on top, and it's not.
Our club don't make those decisions, David. We don't. We're not proactive. We sit there and we react to things. We're Liverpool. Not proactive. And absolutely. You think Liverpool fans are happy with the transfer activity over the past few years?
Well, they tried to bomb Wataru Endo at the start of this season, basically, didn't they? They were happy.
The manager, not us.
Yeah.
The manager's the one not selecting them. Liverpool fans love Endo. Every Liverpool fan I speak to wants more Endo on the pitch.
But I'm saying that the manager's showing this ruthless streak that you say that people want to see.
It's not about being ruthless and just leaving him in the squad, though. Sell him. Free up a squad place, because we're always being told that squad places are at a minimum, wages are at a premium. If you don't trust and rate these players, get them out the door.
I agree. I absolutely agree. But also, you've got to acknowledge that they are given contracts and that they have the right to sort of see those contracts out. I know in Endo's case specifically,
very unlucky, let me say. Endo's been extremely unlucky.
Yeah.
If Jurgen was here, Endo would be playing. I totally understand and sympathise with that. And I've mentioned that many times. Endo's just been incredibly unlucky.
Yeah, I think he has. And I thought he did really, really well at centre-half yesterday. And I think he's been underutilised by the manager, in my opinion. But equally, he came in, he saw a player he didn't think was a great fit for what he wanted, tried to bomb him. Liverpool kind of wanted to sell, but the player was so determined to stay. And I think he's proved his point with his performances. But equally, he's still not getting the minutes because he still doesn't properly fit what the manager wants. So, I think that ruthless streak Slot has tried to show that. It just hasn't kind of worked out. But yeah, he's making his decisions about who he fancies or whatever. And I don't know. I just think sometimes you can get on little runs in seasons where, things kind of don't work out for you or whatever. And it's been a couple of bad results at the end of a 24-game unbeaten streak. And now it's like, right, transfers are the issue here. I just personally don't really agree, to be honest.
So here's where I am. The centre-back thing is kind of far down my priority list, if I'm being honest with you. It's probably third or fourth. Midfielder, Ryan Gravenberch cover, number one priority for me. Left back, honestly, I'm kind of in your camp on this. I think wait till the summer. We can get what we need out of Robbo and Costas, but it is still an area of concern. But it's the midfielder one that I think sticks in the throat of many of us because we've seen window after window, transfer committee after transfer committee, coach after coach go through and be unable to solve this problem. Gravenberch has stepped in and been brilliant, but nobody wants to see him play 70 games in a year and become like Saka, run into the ground perhaps and injured. So that needs to be sorted out, I think. But if we can just bring it back to last night, I think, for a second. I do want to... by the way, this is brilliant. I love this debate. We're doing it respectfully. It's absolutely perfect, and I hope people are enjoying listening to it. But the referee decision last night for the yellow card, I want to just bring that up for a second, because I'm going to be entirely honest and I think Diaz made the most of the first one, and I think the young man was unlucky to get the first yellow card. But you can't re-referee the game at that point. You've given the yellow card. And that was a stonewall yellow, the second one for the foul on Costas. And it's so, you as a fan, the inner fan in you will have felt this as well. So frustrating when your boy who got fouled is getting treatment because the other guy didn't get booked, even allowing for the second yellow. So Costas has to go off the pitch, has to wait there for 30 seconds after his treatment. And then the young man that commits the foul goes up the other end and scores. Now, of course, we can talk about the defensive side that we didn't do right, but it does stick in your throat a little bit because that was clear cut.
Absolutely. I mean, I bet the referee was tempted to put his head in his hands when that ball hits the back of the net, because it's just the last thing he would have wanted, I imagine, because it's a nailed on yellow in all circumstances. And I know I saw what Ange said after the game, where he kind of said, well, it's not actually stopping a promising attack because the ball moves on in Liverpool, and he's actually right in terms of that application of the rule. But the yellow card shouldn't have been for a stopping a promising attack. It should have been for a reckless foul, which is what it was, because it clearly injured Kostas Tsimikas. So the referee has got no hiding place in that situation. Really, a really, really poor decision. And as you say, it makes it worse because Tsimikas is off the pitch. Liverpool are down to 10 men at the point that Bergvall, who should have been off the pitch, puts it in the back of the net. So unbelievably frustrating. And again, for me, just adds into the situation whereby a 0-0 would have been absolutely fine in that game. It wouldn't have been the best performance you've ever seen in your life, but you take the draw and move on. And yet Liverpool don't get that because the referee makes a really poor decision. And I don't like to focus too much on refs. I think Liverpool, you've got to take it out of the refs' hands sometimes by just being better than that. But equally, sometimes it happens in the 86th minute. They have no time to recover from it. Unbelievably frustrating.
I 100% agree with you. The game had 0-0 written all over it with regards to an outcome and a result. And like you said, I would have been happy with that and gone back to Liverpool. So yeah, I think emotions are probably quite high because of a number of factors in that last night. And seeing the hurt, I guess, on Virgil and Arne Slot's faces as well when we seen the obvious unfold with that goal. And it's just sod's law, isn't it? That the guy who did the act then goes and scores. So I'm with you on that one. A couple of quick things I wanted to just run through with you. There is this crazy rumour flying around that Hughes is off on his holidays. Now, I refuse to believe that's the case in January. Surely he's not on leave. It couldn't be true.
No, I mean, I'm not au fait with his holiday plans. I'm not that close to him, but I'm pretty sure that won't be true in the window, because ultimately there are big decisions to be made in this window, and it's not necessarily just about Liverpool signing X, Y, or Z, or maybe they will be quiet in terms of incomings. We don't quite know yet. It's all about what opportunities arise. But outgoings are always a massive possibility. He has to deal with the Ben Doak situation, for example, if that comes to anything. Potential loan moves for others. Jayden Danns has a potential to go on loan this month. What's happening with Lewis Koumas is interest in him. So there's a lot of big decisions to be made there and a lot of calls he would have to make. So to book his holidays in the January window, I'd be absolutely amazed if there was any truth to that whatsoever. So just sounds like someone's getting a little bit overly frustrated and maybe coming up with something that isn't particularly true.
And that's why I wanted to address it, because I was 99.9% sure it was absolute rubbish. And hearing it from your own mouth is probably more valuable than hearing it from mine. So that's why I wanted to bring it up there. Do we expect any outgoings from a first team perspective this month, other than perhaps some of the lone players there that you mentioned?
Yeah, I suppose if you call Ben Doka a first teamer, maybe obviously he's out on loan, but there is real possibility that someone comes back with an acceptable bid there. So one to keep an eye on. In terms of others, Endo is still kind of resolved to stay at least till the end of the season, so don't expect movement with him. I don't think there's a huge desire to move anyone on at the moment. I think it's all, again, can we get to the summer, see what happens then with maybe Darwin Núñez, maybe Kostas Tsimikas. These are all kind of candidates who, for me, their futures are up in the air a little bit. But I think Liverpool would kind of like to keep a good thing going and are happy with the squad options they've got at the moment. So I don't expect any major outgoings, to be honest.
And on the other side of it, are we open to bringing in somebody in this month if the right move becomes available? And I know we throw around this opportunistic word, but we did, in fairness to us a few weeks ago, Dave, break down what we thought opportunistic actually meant. Do we think that anything might come up in that regard this month?
Yeah, I'm still optimistic that something could happen. We've seen it so many times from Liverpool in this window, and there will be instances, I'm sure, of players that they like coming on the market. It does happen more often than you think because it's been proven by the likes of Gakpo, etc. So I think, I'm absolutely still of the belief that it could happen. Something could happen in this window. I'm not as dead set on it being a disaster if it doesn't, but equally, as I say, I still hold that belief because Liverpool are always active in this market, and it's all about whether that right opportunity comes up.
Just to go back to last night for a quick second, was there any word on why Alisson started the game over Kelleher? Is it because the FA Cup game of the weekend, maybe, or because we always think of Kelleher this being his competition?
Yeah, absolutely. Just because of the FA Cup game, we expect Queeve to be involved in that, and it was a clear divide between what was going to be kind of the first team would start in this one to get them ready to keep them in rhythm for Nottingham Forest, and then of course the team that would face Accrington would be heavily rotated. So maybe didn't make sense to leave Alisson out for 2 on the bounce. So he gets this one, and then we see Keller in the FA Cup. I do feel for Queeve a little bit actually because it has been his competition. He's won it twice. Maybe for the next couple of games in this competition, maybe there's a decision to make there. We'll kind of have to see. But yeah, I think it was maybe the right decision to keep the kind of first 11 together ahead of the Forest game, and then we will see Queeve on Saturday.
What youngsters are we expecting to get a look into the squad on Saturday? I'm always excited when we get the idea to see the likes of Nalo as an example, maybe, or Trey Leone or others like that. So who are you expecting to see maybe get a run out on Saturday?
Yeah, do you know, it's kind of an interesting one because he probably, with the strength of Liverpool's squad at the moment, I know seemingly people don't agree with me on that, you probably don't have to put too many youngsters in. I mean, you've got Chiesa champing at the bit for a start. Darwin Núñez is on the bench yesterday, albeit he comes off, but he needs a start, he needs goals. So, you're already putting together, obviously Luis Diaz doesn't start that game, so can he do 60 minutes in this one? You've already got, some names that you're putting in there that makes it really strong, but I do think there are a few vacancies. Obviously, I think it's important to give some rests out to midfielders. So would like to see Trey Leone in this one and think he's got a real chance of doing so, having previously started in the League Cup. So an opportunity for him also. And I think with that injury to Joe Gomez, there is a chance that we see Amara Nallo involved. And would, he's still raw, he's still young, but it's a home game against League Two opposition. I think, in terms of easing him in and giving him the opportunity to shine, this is surely it. So, hoping to see a couple of youngsters. I would love to see, albeit, I said about the front line that Núñez and Chiesa will be involved, but I'd love to see Jayden Danns get some minutes as well. Whether that's from the start or not, we'll have to see, but I really want him to be involved if possible.
Well, David, I appreciate you coming on yet again for another chat after the game, and I appreciate your honesty and forthrightness. We won't always agree, but I think I want to show people that we can disagree in different ways and be respectful about it. So, as always, thank you. And what have you got coming up this week?
Yeah, just usual build up to Accrington and a bit more of a relaxed one around that. And then, of course, obviously, when we're going into Forest, so looking forward to that one. But yeah, it's be a bit more of a relaxed atmosphere around Anfield with this one because I think obviously Liverpool will be heavy favourites. And we'll also, I want to see a bit of Chiesa. I want to see a bit of Harvey Elliott. So, looking forward to seeing that and obviously writing and talking about it on Substack and YouTube. So, yeah, and I very much enjoyed the feisty debate as well.
And also, look, it's a big day for Accrington as well. I'm delighted for them that they get to come to Anfield and experience that. We all remember the young captain when he seen the draw being made. It was great to see. So look, everybody, thank you for watching. Thank you to Mr. David Lynch as always. And we'll catch up with you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.